John L. Jackson Jr. was born on July 13, 1944 in Orlando to John L. Jackson Sr. and Carol Griffin Jackson. He attended William R. Boone High School in Orlando before going to Wake Forest University, where he received his undergraduate degree in 1964. He went on to obtain his B.S. in agricultural mechanics from the University of Florida in 1966 and his Master of Agriculture and Fruit Crops in 1968. While at the University of Florida, he worked as a graduate assistant in the Department of Fruit Crops, collecting and processing soil moisture data, climatic weather records, and temperature profiles, a job that would ultimately impact the entire agricultural industry in the years ahead. Upon graduation from the University of Florida, he went to work briefly as the Assistant Grove Production Manager, Alpat Grove Care Company in Fort Pierce, where he was responsible for the development and implementation of the Grove Management Program for 2,000 acres of citrus. But he was soon offered the job of County Extension Agent 4, Professor, for the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, University of Florida in Lake County.
He's been special to me for over 20 years. We work together, still work together as far as that goes. It just never quit, it's just natural. And it's that way in our extension office with the whole group. When somebody needed some help, they would, what can I do to help? They would help John, John would help them. And it was a cohesive group that worked in Lake County and felt like real family working together in the Lake County Extension office. And a lot of it's due to John.
And there he stayed for almost 40 years, creating programs and cultivating relationships with growers throughout 9 counties. During his citrus career, he was responsible for numerous innovations.
John first got involved with Water Conserve 2 along with Dr. Koo from the Lake Alfred Citrus Research and Education Center. They joined with the City of Orlando and Orange County to convince growers to sign up for reclaimed water for citrus irrigation. That was something new back in the mid-'80s. So it took a little bit of convincing of the growers to sign up for that. And John and Dr. Koo did an outstanding job.
At the same time, it was the largest water reuse program in Florida. He also founded 2 weather alert systems to inform producers of the latest forecasts and assist them with protection efforts during freeze and other weather events.
He understood that through remote location weather stations, he could set up a system by which we as growers could benefit from forecasting, from low temperatures. And he was the one that was instrumental in making this come together. He and David Ayers they're the ones that made it happen.
These programs resulted in Jackson receiving 2 of the United States Department of Agriculture's Distinguished Award of Superior Service, and he is the only extension agent in Florida ever to have been recognized twice. He also established the Mid-Florida Citrus Foundation, MFCF, as the research arm of the water conservation effort, and served as their manager for more than 20 years, raising over $1 million to support the citrus research efforts.
The Mid-Florida Citrus Foundation was a collaborative effort between government and essentially private citrus owners. The City of Orlando donated some property which allowed the people like John Jackson to get citrus growers together, and Lake Alfred and a bunch of citrus scientists together to come up with experiments both for citrus and alternative crops for those of us in the Orange and Lake County area that had problems with the freezes, trying to figure out what we were going to do. And the real mission of the foundation, or one of the purposes, was to get rid of wastewater from the City of Orlando.
Some of Jackson's other noteworthy accomplishments include the establishment of an annual equipment operators school, now known as Farm Safety Day, the Central Florida 4-H Citrus Project, which he founded and over a 20-year period engaged more than 2,000 middle and high school students in agriculture, teaching them how to grow a tree and the importance of the citrus industry, and held grower OJ meetings to educate and inform growers, now an industry standard. He has served on numerous boards and committees, including the Central Florida Citrus Production Managers Association, where he was the program chairman from 1980 to 2000, and has been an honorary member of the Florida Citrus Production Managers Association since 2008. He is a member of the Florida State Horticultural Society, the International Society of Citriculture, and the Florida Farm Bureau, to name a few, and has published numerous papers and articles on industry topics. Upon his retirement in 2006, he became director of the Florida Citrus Industry Research Coordinating Council.
I served on the Florida Citrus Research Coordinating Council with John. John was actually chairman there for a number of years, and so that's really when I first got to know him. And at that time, again, his passion for the industry would come out, and I think his extension agent roots would come out, and that he was looking at all issues that affected the industry, and where were the gaps, what research was being done, and how do we help the grower.
He, along with several others, helped found the HLB Task Force, which was the engine that started the research dollars to increase for HLB from $1.5 million to $20 million a year. He was able to obtain a number of 24C pesticide labels to help with HLB, and was closely involved in getting citrus research decisions and funding shifted from agencies to growers. Also, the task force working with the Box Tax Committee helped form the Florida Citrus Research and Development Foundation, CRDF, which still exists today. This monumental change in research funding caused by HLB would not have happened without John's incredible ability to bring people together for a common cause. After retirement, he also continued to interact with growers and others on an informal basis. Not only does he continue to visit one-on-one with growers and former colleagues, but he also sends out a newsletter called In the Loop and hosts an annual Old Timers Luncheon, which he calls Mature Mentors, to share their experiences in the citrus industry over the years. He is truly a public servant, and he continues to provide support, encouragement, and information, just as he did prior to retirement. In addition, John has been active in the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame since 1976, beginning first as historian and moving on to chairman in 2007, before stepping down in 2019.
John really worked hard to ensure that we preserved the history of our industry by way of not giving up on the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame was on the ropes. It was on its way out. It was really heading to just going away, which would have caused us to lose the history of many of our forefathers and great leaders. John was not about to let that happen.
As chairman, John managed to steer the organization through difficult times with the Florida Citrus Showcase, ultimately splitting off from them and securing a partnership with Florida Southern College, FSC, in 2008. This partnership has continued to grow over the years, and the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame is now responsible for 5 fellowships and an endowment of more than $300,000, all from a beginning balance of negative $12,000.
So the showcase was winding down. They kind of owned and controlled the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame. We had no money. We had to get reestablished, so Rayleigh Groves loaned them the money to get started. Then John took it from there and just went out into the industry and begged, borrowed, and bullied everybody into helping get us the funding to set up the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame where we are today. I mean, he basically went out and raised $200,000 for the endowment at Florida Southern College. And if it wasn't for John Jackson, we wouldn't have a Florida Citrus Hall of Fame today.
One of the programs that we've started at Florida Citrus Hall of Fame is near and dear to John's heart, and that is our oral history program. He has probably done between 30 and 40 interviews with people around the state in which we try to tell the history from a first point of view. And he has just done a yeoman's job in pulling that together and getting that done.
The website is now host to over 1,500 citrus crate labels, 300 plus postcards, and approximately 150 industry photographs. And the Florida Citrus Archives includes numerous historical documents, such as the complete minutes from Florida Citrus Mutual. John also constantly sought monetary supporters to help fund the annual induction luncheon and various special projects, including a book on Florida citrus crate labels and an upcoming book on the Hall of Fame inductee biographies. These resources would not have been possible without John's direction and guidance.
He, as president, willed everybody in the room and in the industry to jump on board and support it. I sat back and I learned a lot watching John. He was an amazing diplomat, and he would not take no for an answer. You were going to support it. You were coming out of your pocket. He pulled money out of this industry that had no business being pulled out of this industry. But he made this cause an amazing champion.
He has received numerous awards, including Researcher of the Year, Agricultural Spokesperson of the Year, Davis Productivity Award, Excellence in Government, 3 Outstanding Service Awards from the Central Florida Production Managers Association, and 3 Service to Agriculture Awards from the Lake County Farm Bureau. And in 2020, John's unwavering dedication to the industry over the years culminated with his induction to the Florida Agricultural Hall of Fame. His most recent accomplishment was Lake County's addition to the Florida Citrus Crate Label Tour in August of 2021, with 24 Lake County citrus label signs dedicated in 9 different cities throughout the country, along with a website dedicated to the citrus label and industry history of Lake County. Always willing to lend a hand, John is also active in his church and the YMCA. But his most important job is that of being Grandpa to his grandchildren and husband to his wife, Catherine.
We were sort of each other's extended family, and as the kids started coming along, then we were always interested in what was going on with each other's kids. And then later, much later in life, then grandkids started showing up on the scene, and John is really a family guy. He is at his very core a family guy. And I've thought many times about how lucky, how fortunate these grandkids are to have someone like John to be a model and a mentor for them, and he takes that job very seriously.
John Jackson is special. His experience in the industry makes him a walking encyclopedia of our past. He tells our industry story with an enthusiasm and wit that draws you along for a historic journey that you always want to follow.
John is a friend of the citrus industry, always has been. He is a great supporter of the citrus industry. Even after retirement, he continued to work tirelessly for the benefit of the citrus industry.
John cared about the people out there. He knew what they were going through.
Without John's persistence and perseverance, we probably wouldn't be here today.
I don't think he had any roots in ag, but boy, he sure grew some.
Aptly described as passionate, committed, dedicated, tenacious, accomplished, and selfless, he is a true friend to growers. And we are honored to welcome John L. Jackson Jr. as a member of the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame.